So welcome back again. My name is John Keeley. So joined in studio here by Martina and Mariah, Cullity, and also Anne is still joining us here. So as we mentioned there in part one, a lovely review we're going to chat about this morning. As I mentioned, and Martina mentioned a few times early on during the year, a faith camp was going to be taking place in Abbeyfeale. And in fact, that did take place in early August, and myself and Anne were fortunate to be there. And so joining the studio here this morning, again, I got Martina and Mariah, who are both very much involved with the same. So I think I'll tell us a little bit about it. But maybe, Martina, what is a faith camp? And how did it start?
Well, it started in 2011 for myself and Lorraine Wolfe. Lorraine's sister, Louise, she volunteered for Margaret Meehan's camp in Ardmore. It started in Ardmore in 2005. That's
in Waterford?
In Waterford.
Okay.
And it's called St. Declan's Camp. And Lorraine's sister, Louise, volunteered at that. Margaret's two children went to America, and they had experience of a Catholic faith camp in America. And they came home and they told her about it. And it touched her heart, and she brought it to Our Lady, and she brought it to Lourdes. She went on a pilgrimage to Lourdes, and Our Lady placed it in her heart in Lourdes that this had to happen in Ardmore. So, like within a year, she put it under the St. Declan's patronage. It happened, and the first one happened in 2005. So anyway, we went down in 2011 and we booked a house. Lorraine and I I have two children and Lorraine has two children, but both similar ages. And we went and we actually made sandwiches for the week. Yeah. Our children went to the faith lessons and the art and the drama and the music and the sport and all the rest. And sure, we couldn't see half of what was happening. All we saw was our children coming home enthused and so happy in the evenings. Like they had two experiences. First of all, they were holidaying with their friends, and secondly, they had the experience of the faith camp. So when we came home, on our way home, Lorraine said, "Oh yeah," I said to Margaret when I was leaving, I said, "Margaret, I'll be booking our house again next year." So when we were coming home, Lorraine said to me, "Martina, why not?" She said, "Why not try and give the children of Abbeyfeale an experience that our children have had?" And I said, "No." I said, "There's no way it would work." I said, it's too much. We need Father Patrick, we need Dominique for the artist. They're not going to come down to Abbeyfeale. She said, "I'll bring them and I'll try." So she got on the phone when we came home. Now, we had mentioned it very briefly to Father Patrick and we had left it with him. But anyway, long story short, the following year we had it. We started in Abbeyfeale. This is that was in 2013, 14, 15, 2013. So we had 61 children the first year.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had wonderful feedback. Father Patrick came. He brought two brothers from the family of Mary, two sisters from the family of Mary. And we had various different people with the Friars of the Renewal, and we had loads of volunteers and all the rest. So, yeah, it was a baptism of fire and all the rest. So anyway, as it happened, this is our fourth year this year.
And just starting back again, I mean, how did you let the parents know, and how did 61 people become to know about
I suppose what we did was we went into the schools before they closed, and we just stood on top of the class and we just told them the story, and we had little flyers with our we actually printed off 100 and whatever 300 400 and something application forms, and we handed them out to every child. Now 50% of them went into the bin, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But we had to lose to that. But then we didn't really need to flog it anymore any other year, because everybody knows now.
The first, yeah. But not everybody maybe can get a chance to go into a school.
No, well, I suppose the only other thing we did was we put it on the Observer.
Okay.
You know, the West Limerick Observer. And you were very kind to us, John. We
both chatted about it a few times,
you did, and you mentioned it here many times. And like the word has gone out now, and we now don't have to sell it. I remember the first year we printed off our application forms. We couldn't put Catholic on it, because we said if we put Catholic on it, the children won't come. Yeah. And that's sad, you know.
Very sad.
Because we were afraid that the parents said, "Oh no, we don't can't let our children go there because you don't know what they're going to be taught," and etc. etc. So when I remember talking on the final day of the first year, I said, "From now on, we are unashamedly Catholic," and I said, "What's taught here is straight down the line according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church," because Father Patrick is And absolutely, talk about a priest standing on the catechism and on the precepts of the church and all that it is.
Fantastic.
So, you know, it has sold itself since, really and truly, you know.
How did you come to get volunteers? I mean, there was yourself and Lorraine and 61 children.
Yeah.
You needed to get...
Yeah, well, you see, grace moves, John, really and truly. That happened, it took on a life of its own. Now, the first 2 years, I would say that we were very dependent on outsiders. An awful lot of people had to come, so we had huge accommodation.
Yeah.
But anyway, like the Lord provided for that too, and things have changed and evolved since. And this year, I'm so thrilled. We had host families this year, and I had 2 instances where Martina and Maria, our sacristans in Abbeyfeale, they hosted our 2 brothers, Brother Gabriel and Brother Simon.
Lovely.
And I met Morris and back in Glenbeigh Beach last Sunday, and I just went up to them and I said, like, I wanted to thank both of them, you know. And Morris said to me, Martina, he said, it's, we have to thank you. He said, I have to say, I had reservations. He said, will they be able to eat our food? Will we be able to understand them? What will we say to them? He said, I have never been so touched by 2 men, he said, in my life. He said, we couldn't wait for them to come in at night so that we could sit down by the fire and have a chat.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. They were so moved by them and touched by them. And you see, I knew that was going to happen because I cooked for them. I cooked for all the boys last year every night.
Wow.
And like I said to Jerry, I said, you'd pay them to come in to visit you because we benefited so much from their wisdom, their counsel. They were funny. They had wonderful stories and testimonies to tell, and our children were fascinated with them. So I said, I want other families to experience what we've experienced. And in fairness to Anne and Morris, and then Kathleen Hartnett hosted our 2 sisters, Sister Gabrielle and Sister Marietta Biscuit, and Sister Bridget. And sure, her grandchild, and she won't mind me saying this, like, she was so fascinated and she couldn't believe there was 2 nuns in her house. She asked them, and do nuns wear normal pajamas?
Lovely, gorgeous, isn't it gorgeous? Isn't it beautiful?
They got the ins and outs of all what an order is all about.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you know, as I said earlier on, that really couldn't take place without volunteers. And myself and Anne went back for a few days, and thanks for inviting us back there. And we were blown away. Well, first of all, by the enthusiasm of everybody.
Yeah.
That's from the children to the leaders, but also to a core of about 30 young people, young people between late teens, I suppose, and late 20s.
Yeah.
Who were bubbly, who were living their faith and passing that on to the children. And one of those was Mariah. Mariah, I don't know how you got the energy. I mean, I met Father Patrick back there, and Father Patrick got a load of energy. Martina, you got a lot of energy. But this lady is just full of energy and full of faith energy and so on and so forth. Maria, how did you hear about this camp and become involved?
Well, it was the 2nd year of the camp, and I had been to a U2000 retreat that summer. So I was filled with the Holy Spirit and wanted to tell everybody and change the world, as you can expect.
Yeah.
But I met yourself and Martina in Abbeyfeale Church during the mission, and you introduced me to Martina, and it kind of just took off from there. The form came in the post 2 days later, and it was sent the same day it came.
She doesn't hang around,
and I haven't turned back since.
No, she doesn't hang around. And so that's a few years ago, yeah.
So this is my 2nd year doing it. Yeah.
So tell me about what a volunteer does now. I mean, what you sort of.
I think the first thing that a volunteer does is we have to learn how to smile. Is the first thing.
Not a bother to you anyway.
To anybody that was there. Know anybody that was there every morning, no matter if you were so tired you only had 2 hours sleep, the smiles, the high fives, the laughter, just so filled with love for our Lord, for their faith, for the young people. A typical day, so you'd have maybe 2 sessions and then you'd have break, and you'd see all the volunteers running for the buns and the biscuits and the sandwiches. But children were never left on their own, it's great to see. By the end of the week, we didn't even want to go for lunch. We wanted to stay with the kids so much. And I was in the drama this year and last year with Nullig. And you just see they learn about a saint throughout the week, and they do the play on the saint. And we'll say at the end of the week, that Friday, one fella came up to me and he says, I'm going to pray to that saint now for the year. And when I come back and I get my next saint, I'll pray to him or her for a year.
Isn't that beautiful?
So for a child to go home with that is beautiful.
And how many groups were there? I mean, I think they went up in angels, didn't they? So tell me.
They did. So the babies, as they're called, the cherubs.
Uh-huh.
So they're basically before primary school, just primary school age. And then you have groups, you have the preachers, and you have the guardians, and you have the archangels, who are the men of the group, as the saying goes. Okay. And so you have about 5 groups, and they're all done in their ages. So the lessons then are done according to their ages, which is lovely. So the babies, it's very interactive, the cherubs. So it's all like, I can't hear you, and they have to say it louder, and they have to repeat. And the intermediate is kind of the same, but there'll be more actions and like a longer prayer at the start and at the end. And then the archangels then have the more, we'll say, detailed story of the lesson, and just to see them asking questions during the mass that day as well of what they've learnt is amazing. And even the leaders, we kind of turned around to each other, how do you answer that question? Yes. You know, so we were learning as well as them for the week, which you just come home and you're like, yeah, I'm going to Google that now and I'd look more into it. So it prompted you. Exactly. So my faith has grown in the last 2 years to all extremes altogether. So not alone did you just pass on whatever you could give to young people, but you benefited from them asking the questions. Exactly. And watching Father Patrick and the gang there answering those questions. Exactly, 100%.
John, I must just tell you, the archangels did the life of Pope John Paul II. It was brilliant. And they acted out the assassination of Pope John Paul II by Abbeyfeale, whatever. Yeah. But Edan Cotter was Pope John Paul. And yes, Nolig told me that while they were practicing, like, he had the normal voice, people of Ireland, I love you, that's all he said. But he went home the night before he did the drama, and he obviously Googled how Pope John Paul said that. Yeah. And he put on a Polish accent. Brilliant. With a West Limerick lilt. And honest to goodness, it was... Yeah, he's people of Ireland, I love you. And I mean, there was a brilliant part of that sketch. There was. Which I didn't realise happened in real life, but apparently it did. When this assassin shot the Pope and tried to get away. Yeah, who caught him? A nun. And guess who the nun was? I wonder. This Mariah. Bubbly, giggly girl that's here in front of me. And I tell you what, if she ever become a god, God help you guys. There's nobody out there would ever get away from her. But it was brilliant, absolutely. Yeah. Martina, what sort of reaction did you receive from both the children and the parents, I suppose? Well, the first thing, I have 2 lovely stories. I had one mother tell me on the day of the drama, when the drama was finished, she came up and she said, Martina, my child came in this morning into my bed at 2 a.m. She was sick. And I was cuddling her and telling her she was going to be okay. And then she looked up at me, she says, Mom, I can't wait for tomorrow because I can't wait to get into the camp. It's the best camp ever. So in the middle of the sick, she was thinking of a couple of hours later that she would be, you know. And then another child was actually taken to Shannon during the night. She had kidney infection and she said she didn't want to stay at home, and she was on an antibiotic, and she came in as well because she didn't want to miss the drama. Yes, you know? Yes. And like, I've got several text messages from mothers, you know, since all mothers actually. No, I didn't get any from fathers, but several text messages to say that what it meant to their child. They had so much fun. And you see, the parents, for the parents whose children came for the very first time, they don't know what have happened. Their children have actually been changed, really, because we have been changed by the experience of it. And you really have to come into the school to feel that. You would. You really, because John, you didn't realise. I had you told here in this studio so many times what it was, but you really can't understand it until you experience it in the school. Now, the one thing that I suppose I've come to realise as the years roll, that it's not so much about the youth now. It all started about the young children. It's now very much about the teenagers and how they blossom. Like Nolig, who does the drama from Mitchelstown, and she said to me, we cook for everybody, you know, at night, and we have a lovely meal, and we have music and song, and we chat about the Lord and chat about. It's mostly all faith stories. But she said to me, she said, Marty, I was walking around the school today, she said, and I passed a room where this girl was at the top of the room giving the presentation on the miraculous medal, and this child had started off as an archangel. She came as a student, we'll say. And she was now giving the lesson And, she said, I just said to myself, wow, this is what it's about growth. And now we had 2 fabulous boys from Ardmore. They came to the first camp in Ardmore in 2005 to Margaret Meehan. And they came just for one night. The eldest boy is an artist, and he had to go home the following day, about 12 o'clock. But anyway, before he went, I was saying goodbye to him in the hall, and he said, Marty, I have to say goodbye to the boss. And I thought he meant Father Patrick. So I said, fine, I let him off. And he was going into the main hall, but I went into the kitchen. Father Patrick was inside in the kitchen. What I didn't realise was he actually was going into the adoration room to kneel before Jesus.
Beautiful.
And he knew.
How old was he again?
He was 20. Yeah. The most beautiful boy. And his brother. Yeah.
So maybe what message would you like parents and children to take from this experience this year?
I would say to parents, especially for parents that maybe haven't sent their children, I would ask them just to let them come for 1 year and let them be the judge. Because, sometimes, Father Patrick has a wonderful new career, I'll call it now. He's opening a new mission school, a school of evangelization, because he knows that there are people, young people, dying to spread the faith, but they don't have the tools, they don't have the words, they don't have just the wherewithal to do that. And there are many parents that may want what their grandparents had, but they can't pass on the faith either because they have lost it some way. And this is the ideal way. If you want your child to grow in faith, you send them, and it's only 4 days, but it's for a lifetime. If your child only comes for 1 year, what they'll get, they won't lose, because these are God's seeds. Remember, and He says, don't mind about the fertilizer. He said, I'll fertilize. You just sow the seeds and move on.
Beautiful. Mariah, what sort of memory would you like to take with you from the camp this year? I suppose there's loads of them, but just share with us a few of them.
One memory especially that I would have would be the energy of the children coming in every morning with the smiles, the high fives. And once Wednesday comes, they even know your name. And you mightn't even have your name tag on yet. So that they're so engrossed in listening.
Lovely.
And especially the way they soak up everything in the catechesis lessons. And you see it then when they ask more questions during Father Patrick's homily in the Mass. And like I said, the leaders were just totally blown away by their interest, that it adds to our interest. And as well for the leaders, the bonds, the friendship bonds we make throughout the week. We have a WhatsApp group now.
I'd imagine,
So we're constantly in contact with each other. And the fact that we can sit down around a table and eat our dinner and have a can of 7-Up, but talk about our faith journey, our difficulties we're having.
Lovely.
That we can help each other with, because everyone is on a different journey, but yet we're still on very similar journeys. So to talk about that and talk through the difficulties and what might be the next step, or if they wanted to understand more, or maybe we could start our own prayer group, was an idea we had this year as well. Behind a few of us got together, we said we might think about doing it.
Lovely.
So they're my memories from this year.
Beautiful.
We had 6 girls, six teenagers from Tarbert School, John, because Geraldine O'Callaghan is a French teacher in Tarbert School, and she brought. Now the parents trusted her, and the children trusted her. They've never been inside the door of a faith camp, and they came, and my goodness, they were just bowled over by it. Every single one of them came up to me and shook my hand, and they said, "Marty, would you put my name down for next year?"
Isn't that great?
Isn't
that great?
Yeah.
Well, one of the memories I have, girls, is one day again. The Tuesday, I think I was there Tuesday, and I was there again on Friday. But I was just circling around, just trying to find my way, and I just noticed one of the leaders coming down, a young lady, maybe 20 something, bringing down a group of young children to the Adoration Chapel, and I said, "Wow!" I had to check and make sure and see where they're going in.
Yeah.
They went in, she pointed the Blessed Sacrament, they all knelt down.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Whenever would they get that experience again?
But John, when they came, when Father Patrick came first and all his team, they said to me the first year, Martina, like this would be their 3rd camp, and it's week after week. There's no break. This is their, and you can imagine how exhausted they are.
Yes.
He said they said to me the first year, these are the best children, the best behaved children, and I thought they were just being nice to me. But then at the end of the week, I said to them, and by the way, I forgot to tell you, I wrote to 10 Port Clare convents for them to pray in intercessory prayer for us, for the children, for all their parents and their grandparents, for all the volunteers.
It didn't just happen.
And then they said, "That's it.
Yeah.
So I did the same this year. I wrote away as far as Australia, and I got the most beautiful letters back.
Thanks.
And like, they are so delighted that this is happening in a small town in West Limerick, because, you know, like, they sometimes get they lose hope too, that because maybe they mightn't be getting any vocations or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I really believe that we will have vocations from this. I firmly believe that.
I have no doubt about it myself too. Mariah, what would you like to leave us with? What sort of thought would you like to leave the listeners with now in regard to the camp? Maybe encouragement next year for parents and people of your own age to express their faith through volunteering.
I think, like Martina said, you have to try it to understand the graces that we get throughout the week, the growth that we get as leaders, the growth we see in the young people. And even, we'll say, the sisters and brothers that come from Father Patrick's order, you see them, they elate when they see children coming in, and even us enjoying the week. They see that this is going on, like Martina said, they see that it's going on, and they see that vocations are possible.
That's a last message from yourself, Martina.
The day of the drama, John, I noticed that even the mums and the dads were in the room, sitting in the chairs.
Mm-hmm.
Their children were in the laps of the volunteers, sitting on the floor, and they wouldn't go to their mothers and fathers.
Yeah,
they were more comfortable on the laps of the volunteers. So, you know, I mean, I cry bitter tears on the Friday evening when I'm saying goodbye to people. And I kept two beautiful young girls from Mitchelstown, Anya and Sarah, and I kept Dominique. Three of them stayed in my house. Dominique is our artist. If you saw the card that the two girls gave me,
oh, thanks to God.
My goodness. I mean, to bring a tear to your eye now. You know?
Just briefly, again, the order that Father Patrick...
Yeah, the family, it's called the Family of Mary. It's Our Lady of All Nations.
Okay, and there was two brothers.
Yeah, Brother Gabriel and Brother Simon.
And two sisters.
Sister Marietta and Sister Bridget.
And I had a beautiful occasion there later on, sometime busting through your meal, I think it was on the Thursday night or something anyway, to take them upstairs and interview them. They gave me a wonderful vocation stories, which hopefully we'll be able to broadcast in a few weeks' time. I was so thankful to you, John, because, you know, they would be gone home and nobody would have heard that story. Nobody would know that.
No. And that's so precious, you know.
And also, please God, we also took the opportunity that Friday morning of recording all of the sketches. That's right, yeah. And they come out, well, the last one, I mean, the one that I heard about John Paul II come out anyway, so I'm sure the other ones come out. Yeah. So hopefully maybe sometime towards Christmas we might be able to play some of those sketches again. Lovely. It's a wonderful example of faith. So, well, yeah. And also, it was a great opportunity as well. John, you got some volunteers and their experience for the week. That's right. To see it from their point of view, which I thought was beautiful. I got my roving reporter here next to me, Mariah, to go out with my little recorder, go round the place there on the Friday. Again, we'll have to get those together again and maybe play those at some other stage. But in the meantime, that particular Friday, after we had all the plays, we had some music. Mm-hmm. And I thought the music was great, and I did pick up one of them, and I think really this sums it up. It was a beautiful singing, but I think the idea of it came through. It was Father Patrick leading 70 young people, 30 volunteers who were dancing and clapping all over the joint, and maybe about 50 parents, and myself and Emma in the middle of them, and it was beautiful. And this one is entitled, from the Faith Camp, it's entitled "We Want to See Jesus." So let's hear this.
All right, we'll do... We want to see Jesus. We want to see Jesus lifted high, a banner that flies across this land, that all men might see the truth and know He is the way to heaven. We want to see Jesus lifted high, banner that flies across this land, that all men might see the truth and know He is the way to heaven. We want to see Jesus lifted high. We want to see Jesus lifted high. Step by step we're moving forward, little by little taking ground. Every prayer's a powerful weapon, strongholds come tumbling down and down and down and down. We want to see Jesus lifted high, banner that flies across this land, that all men might see the truth and know He is the way to heaven. We want to see Jesus lifted high, banner that flies across this land, that all men might see the truth and know He is the way to heaven. We want to see Jesus lifted high. We want to see Jesus step by step. Step by step we're moving forward, little by little taking ground. Every prayer's a powerful weapon, strongholds come tumbling down and down and down and down. We want to see Jesus lifted high, banner that flies across this land, that all men might see the truth and know He is the way to heaven. We want to see Jesus lifted high, banner that flies across this land, that all men might see the truth and know. Last time, He is the way to heaven. We want to see Jesus lifted high. We want to see Jesus lifted high.